Colossians chapter 1. That's there in the New Testament. And as you turn into Colossians chapter 1, there was this amazing commercial that I was reminded of this week as I was preparing this sermon. Actually, we're in Colossians chapter 3, so scratch that. Just turn a couple pages over. It's not a big book, Colossians 3. And no, I didn't change my mind on the sermon last second. I just misspoke. But do you remember those marine commercials? They've been on for a long time and they catch your attention every time. I was thinking about those this week. Those Marines that are coming out of helicopters, right, doing war stuff. They're encroaching beaches, doing all this amazing stuff and this cool camo, and they're like, that's cool. But then like the next part of the commercial, the next scene, just as dangerous as they looked the first time is as sharp as they look in that next scene. You see this Marine in his dress uniform, flipping that rifle, standing tall, still looking dangerous, but professional and classy. And you're already, as a guy, and maybe even a girl, thinking, yeah, I want to be a part of that. But then there's this voice that comes on. And it says something like, there are those who pursue a life of honor, courage, and something that is greater than themselves. And the commercial always ends the same way, right? You could probably say it with me. The few, the proud, the Marines. Does that commercial work? Yeah, it does. I can remember several times as I was getting ready to go to college as a high school student, and even in college, I had an Air Force ROTC scholarship. I went to college to play football. I can still remember watching that commercial going, if it wasn't for that scholarship, right? If I wasn't already ready to become commissioned as an officer, I would go to the Marine Corps. I almost joined a couple times right before college. So why did I bring that commercial up? I'm not recruiting for the Marines. That's up to you and to your children. But I brought up that commercial to ask a question. Why does the commercial work? I'll tell you why it works. It doesn't focus on the negative things. How you can't do it. You're not good enough and you're not qualified. Although it's probably true if you look at the facts, most people are too lazy and weak-minded to be a Marine. They know that, but they don't say it like that. They give you something to chase after. They give you something you want to be a part of. They don't focus on the negative. They give you something that's greater than yourself. The defense of freedom in this nation. And many people say, yes, I want to be a part of that, but not everybody makes it. The few, the proud, the Marines. And so what I wanted to do today is kind of take that approach that the Marine Corps did with those commercials to a Father's Day message. Because yes, I know the statistics that many men in our world today are not good fathers. Now, many of them aren't even here today. I get that. I know that many men, many times, are lazy, selfish, profane, and distant. But we don't have to focus on all the deadbeat dads in a message today. I want to focus on those men who are here, who are ready to be a father, who are a father, maybe have been a father in the past and are still a father today, though they're getting older, or maybe those who will have sons or are sons that will be fathers one day. Really, this message applies to everybody. To look at those few, those proud, those biblical fathers, those men who do the very courageous thing and say, I'm going to rear a child in this crazy world. And I'm going to do it according to how God says it. No, it's not going to be popular. No, it's not going to be easy. And no, not everybody's going to do it. But I'm calling you to something greater than yourself. Calling you to pray for those fathers in your life and those dads that you know so they could be a part of something greater than themselves. Because I know the statistics of what it looks like in a family when a good father's there. An active and a non-distant biblical father is there. There's lots of things that a father is. And there's a few things in the Bible that a father is commanded to do. So I have one verse for us today. Don't you love it, dads, when it's just a simple message? I know I do. I love it when I'm preparing. I'm like, oh, good. Just one verse, Colossians 3:21. And I'm going to look at both of those things. Number one, what a father is. And number two, what a father does, or in this case, what a father doesn't do. And this one verse is not complicated. Colossians 3:21, Paul says, "Fathers," that's the subject of today's message, "do not exasperate your children." That's the command. Why? So that they will not lose heart. Or as the NIV says it, so they will not become broken-hearted or discouraged. Very simple message. There's two things you see going on in this verse, and then you see the purpose of this verse. Number one, the subject, fathers. That's going to give us an opportunity for me to talk to you about what a father is. Number two, also not complicated, you have the command to not exasperate your children, which comes with the purpose. Why? So that your children do not lose heart and they will not become discouraged. Now, I know I don't usually just jump into a verse. And I usually don't just take one verse, but I feel like God's given me license to do that because how this verse is set up in Colossians chapter 3. In Colossians chapter 3, what Paul is doing here is he's passing out orders or commands to everybody in the family. He's already talked to wives, he's already talked to children, and here in verse 19, he switches to the men in the family, and he talks to husbands, and he says, "Husbands, love your wives and don't become embittered to them." And then in verse 21, he says, "Fathers, those husbands who also have children, do not exasperate your children." And I love the order here. As he starts transitioning from the women and the children to the men, he starts with the first person you should love outside of God. And so if you're a father here today with a wife, your first job before we can even talk about your children is to love your wife. This word love, I love it here. Colossians 3:21, this word for love is the Greek word agape. It's the same word that Paul uses in Ephesians chapter 5 when he tells husbands, love your wives, how? Like Christ loved the church. You've probably heard me say it before, but what does that word agape mean? It means a kind of love that's never ending. A no matter what kind of love, the same kind of love that Jesus has for you, that allowed him to die in your place on the cross. The kind of love that allowed him to be committed to you, though he knew you would royally mess it up several times in your life. This no matter what kind of love is what husbands have for their wives. And how does Jesus love you, dads and husbands? When you mess up, he doesn't leave you. He didn't abandon you. He didn't cheat on you. He sticks with you. No matter what. Husbands, let's just start there for a second. Love your wives like that. Yeah, when it's easy, but anybody can do it when it's easy. But especially when it's hard. When she messes up, when your children mess up. Love your wives, love your family like that. But your love starts with your wife, and then you can understand how to properly love your children. Now we can go to verse 21, the focus of our passage and the focus of our time together. He says, fathers. I just want to stop right there. What is a father? The subject that Paul is bringing up here. Well, simply put, you could say that a father is the male parent. You're like, well, thanks a lot, Pastor. I'm going to write that down. I'll put it in my Bible and I can leave today. No. But a father is so much more than just the male parent. I think to be a male is to be a father. We're going to talk about that in a second. But to be a father is that one in the family who bears the responsibility to provide. When it comes down to it, the buck stops here. And to protect my family, while at the same time offering moral and intellectual upbringing for my children. This is what a father is. Let us never forget, though, that part of being a father, a husband and a dad, the first part of that is being a man. So I think there's lots of confusion about this in our society today. So when I'm talking about what a father is, I feel like I have to start with, what is a man? And when you think of what is a man or how can I be a man, you're going to have to erase a lot of the stuff out of your memory that you watched today. All those TV commercials, like that Dos Equis commercial, right? And it talks about this guy who's the most interesting person in the world. Is kind of a womanizer. No, you got to remove all of that. Don't think of that manly, macho personality that you see on Instagram or wherever on the internet, that the guy's got to look a certain way. He's got to be a little mean. He's got to be kind of rude. He's got to objectify women. He's got to curse a lot. He's got to be distant because he can't get too close to anybody because he doesn't really need anybody. You need to erase that stuff out of your mind. No, a real man is not so independent that he doesn't need anybody. That's not courageous or strong. That's cowardice. That's protecting yourself so nobody gets in, so you never have to get hurt. Don't you dare translate that as being a man. That's being a coward. Don't be that kind of man. Yes, a real man is strong enough to let people in, be it also strong enough to not be influenced by others except for God. A real man loves, a real man supports, a real man is honest, and a real man is honest with himself. Honest enough to say that I need God. And I want to surrender to God through a relationship with Jesus Christ. A real man loves Jesus. A real man is strong enough to say words that many men don't want to say, like, I need Jesus. That's courageous to say something like that, because it's the truth. We do. So a real man needs Jesus, and in the name of Jesus, a real man is self-sacrificial, not selfish, like you see so many men today. A real man is humble, not arrogant, like you see so many men today. All of this is described as following the character of Jesus. If you want to learn more about that, go to Philippians chapter 2. You will see what a real man was in Jesus and what a real man is as you follow him. A real man has faith and is faithful. And for just a few minutes, I want to talk about how Paul speaks to real men, not only in Colossians 3:21, but look in your Bibles in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, or look at these verses behind me. 1 Corinthians 16 and verses 13 through 14. Listen how Paul speaks to men. He says, be on alert. Stand firm in the faith. I love this next one. Act like men. Be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. How about that, fathers? Could I be so bold as to speak to you today? And for those of you who want to pray for your fathers, to speak to you, to pray for them like this, to speak to you in the words of Paul, may I go back to that verse and tell you, act like men. Stop acting like babies. Stop acting like infants. Act like men. What does that mean in this verse? Number one, Paul says, be alert. Here's the truth. Satan is coming for you. And if you don't expect it, he's going to surprise you. And if he surprises you, he's going to hurt you, just like any good attack. If it comes by surprise, they have the advantage. The Bible tells you, on the other hand, that Satan is like a prowling lion. He's just looking for one of you to devour. Be ready. Have your head on a swivel. Be alert. Stay in his word and you'll always stay ready. Stay in prayer and you will always be prepared. But you neglect his word, you neglect prayer, and you go walking through this world like nothing's going to happen to you. Next thing you know, bam! Temptation, adultery, pornography, anger, pride, all of these things that Satan is trying to get you with, they're going to get you. So Paul says, be a man and be alert. You have responsibilities. What's the next thing that he said here? Stand firm in your faith. This basically means don't be swayed by the world. Live to please one individual, and that individual is God. At the end of the day, if you're faithful in prayer and faithful in his word, and you can lay your head on the pillow at night knowing that you pleased God, nothing else really matters. Because you learn to please God, you'll know what it means to love your wife. You learn to please God, you know what it means to rear your children. You learn to please God, you know what it means to perform at work and all the other things in your life. So stand firm in your faith. And finally, I love this other one. Act like a man and be strong. Physical strength is of some importance, Paul says, but what he's talking about here is spiritual strength. That means grow a backbone and stand up for what you believe in as it's revealed in God's word. And once God says it, it doesn't really even matter if you understand it, although you should try to. Believe it and then emulate it. So much noise. So much noise in our society. Be strong. Stand up and stand for what you believe in. The first part of being a biblical father is being a man. And I want to challenge you, dads. Act like men. I needed to hear that this week. But here's my problem. Maybe like some of you men, I don't just need to hear it this week. I need to hear it next week. I don't just need to hear it today. I need to be reminded of this kind of stuff tomorrow and the next day. So I've given you a pretty special Father's Day gift. On your way out, if you're a father, I'm giving you this book. And you can take one if you want to give it to a father that's not here, or maybe a son or something like that. But this is chiefly for those men who are here today who are fathers or are thinking about being a father. It's called Rewriting Fathers. Taking a fresh approach to what it means to be a biblical father. It's written by a friend of the church and a friend of mine named Preston Cave with his brother to help dads see what it means to be a strong biblical father for the benefit of your family and the glory of God. This book is awesome. What I love about this book is, look at it. It's not very long. It's like the verse today. It's just one verse, right? This is just one book. And most of it's a journal. All those back pages is just writing. All the hard reading is just like right there. Not very much. I love that. It's simple. It's easy to get through. It's easy to apply. And it's easy to remember. What Preston does in this book that I love so much that I was willing to give it an endorsement, and it's in the book, is he takes the word fathers and makes it an acronym for what a biblical father is and what a biblical father does. Most of you can't read my handwriting, but I'm going to try real hard. So there it is, the acronym which makes up the basis for the book. And what we're talking about is what a father is, and that's these first three letters. And you'll notice it's kind of funny that biblical fathers are fat. It's probably the first biblical allowance for dads to be fat. And I'm not talking about weight. I've struggled with that myself. And I'm not talking about fat like P-H-A-T. I'm talking about faithful is the first thing that biblical fathers are. So let me write it on here. And fathers are available. And biblical fathers are teachable. Fat. Okay, you can laugh at that some more. So, faithful, available, and teachable. That's what a father is. Now, there's 4 areas of application to this. God, family, church, and I didn't plan that out very well, but we'll put it over here. Work. So, we're talking about what a father is and what a father does. A father is faithful, available, and teachable to God, to his family, to church, and to work. What does it mean to be faithful to God? It means you do what he wants you to do and not what you want to do. What does it mean to be faithful to your family? You don't leave them, you stick with them. What does it mean to be faithful to your church? Attendance, service, yeah, all that stuff. And the one that I really don't have to convict you on probably, because this is your primary place of worship, and most of you dads spend 8 to 10 to 12 to, hours a day at work. Then available to God. How available are you to God when he wants to talk to you? How about this? How available are you to your family? Are you too busy for them? How many times a week do you eat dinner with them? Are you at their games? When they need to talk, do they always have to go to mom or grandma or grandpa because you're not there? You need to be available to them. This is a huge one. And available to your church. And obviously available to your work. And what about teachable? All right, there's this new nonsensical song out. It's like a rap country song. And, take my word. Anyways, but it's this idea that ain't nobody tell me nothing. You ever heard that idea? That's stupid. It's like, nobody can say nothing to me. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. How are you going to learn if nobody can speak to you? You need to be teachable by God. What about teachable to your family? Your wife says, what you did last week, I don't like it, and I appreciate it. If you don't do it again, you need to say, yes, ma'am, because I'm teachable in my family. If you did something to hurt your family, fix it. Teachable to your church. You're showing that right now. I'm glad you're here. And teachable to your work. I'm challenging you to pick up this free book. I'm not even making you pay for it. And it's going to tell you what a father is. Faithful, available, and teachable. And I want you to do this for 30 days. Take your time. Take one page at a time. One attribute at a time. If you're a fast reader, do it over again. Maybe do it 3 times in 30 days. But walk slowly through this book and understand what it is to be a father. Faithful, available, and teachable. But my favorite part of this resource, and we're not even done. We got 4 more letters to go in a minute. My favorite part of this resource is not only does it challenge you to do it, to learn what a father is and write about it, and something that's easy to remember and easy to repeat, but then it challenges you to teach it to your children. Imagine spending time every day learning what you are to be as a biblical father, and you just memorize it. I'm faithful. What does that mean? I'm available. What does that mean? I'm teachable. And then at night when you're tucking your son into bed, you look him in the eyes, and I'm not talking like an hour, I'm talking like 2 or 3 minutes. You help him understand. Just take F, for example. Isaac, I want to help you understand how a father is faithful. Faithful to God, and what does that mean? This is what you can expect from me as a father, Isaac. I'm faithful to my family. I'm faithful to my church, and I'm faithful to work. Can you imagine your son hearing this from you, his father? And the next night, maybe you don't even get through all of it. Maybe you just talk about faithful to God, and the next night, family. But a week later, you talk about available, and you tell your son, this is what you can expect from me. I'm available to God. I have my devotions with him. I'm available to you as a family member. You know what that's going to mean to your son as you tell him this? But not only are you telling your son what he can expect from you as a faithful, available, and teachable father, but how about this? You're also teaching him what he must be one day if he's going to be a faithful, biblical father as well. He's going to learn from you through your actions and through your words. You say, well, what about my daughters? There's no difference. You tuck your daughter in. Maybe you go to her room. You tuck her in at bed at night. You're telling her what she can expect from you as a faithful, available, and teachable father. But then what else are you teaching her? What she needs to look for in a boy when he wants to marry her and to be the father of her children? How about this? And the father of your grandchildren. You're investing in those moments right now. And by the way, it's never too late to teach this to your children. One word. Colossians 3:21, fathers. We've seen what a father is, but let's go on in this verse and see what a father does. What is the command here? You see it, it's not very complicated. What a father does is a negative command here. Do not exasperate your children. This is a negative command to discourage the abuse and the authority that God has given to you. Do you know that the Bible doesn't give you very many commands as a father? But when it says, I'm commanding you to do this, you need to listen. Did you know, dads and fathers and grandfathers, the Bible doesn't give very many commands to your children? I mean, very few. You could almost limit it to one. What does the Bible say? Children, obey your parents. You know how much power and authority that is? Because you have all of that power and authority in your children's life, because they're commanded to obey you, you don't want to abuse that authority or misuse that authority. So Paul says, do not exasperate your children. This word exasperate means to provoke. It means to irritate or to embitter. But it's not just a command to not make your children angry. Sometimes I feel like my children stay angry with me. When I say you can't get a social media app. When I say you can't go there with those friends that I don't know. When you can't eat that, when you can't do that. I mean, on and on and on it can go. It's not saying they can't be mad at you. Basically, what it's saying is that you treat your children in such a way that does not leave them discouraged or downtrodden. Look again, fathers, do not exasperate your children. Why? The purpose, so that they will not lose heart, so that their poor spirits will not be crushed by you, so that they will not be discouraged. A similar idea occurs in Ephesians 6:4. More centered around the idea of anger. It says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger. but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. This word in Ephesians 6:4 is paragizo, and it means to intentionally stir something up or to make it angry. Like that young boy in the class that pokes the girl just to get a rise out of her. Right? Like I did when I was a child, that boy that takes that stick and shoves it into the fire ant pile. Why? Just to see him get stirred up. That's not a good idea in nature, and Paul says in Ephesians 6:4, it's not a good idea with your children. But it's a similar but different word here in Colossians 3:21. It's not paragizo, it's erethizo. I'm like, what's the difference? It's a more general and a broad term. That's why we don't translate it provoke. Although it has the idea of provoking, we translate it exasperate. So in this context, Colossians 3:21, exasperate is a broad term that describes any parental behavior that crushes your child's spirit. Any parental behavior that leaves them discouraged and leaves them hopeless. Because leaving your child discouraged and hopeless over time will damage them. It'll leave them with a lack of confidence in you, and because you represent God to them, it'll leave them with a lack of confidence in God. They lose their confidence in you when you exasperate them because you're always talking down to them and you're crushing their spirit. So let me say this. As a father, you were called to give your children hope, not to take it away through exasperating them. So what does a father do? He gives his children hope. So how do you exasperate a child is a question I've often asked myself. Once I learned what it means, it turns out I'm pretty good at it. And that's sad. I think many of us as dads are good at exasperating our children, but many times we don't know if we're breaking this command or not because we don't even know what it means. You can exasperate your child pretty easily, especially when you're disciplining them. Here's how you do it. You get on to them for something they're doing wrong, but you never tell them what they're doing right. You only focus on the negative and how bad they are and how messed up they are and how bad their behavior it is, but you never give them a way out. You never give them a way to correct it, and so they just have this constant feeling of being discouraged. You know you've exasperated your child when they kind of just want to give up. When they're downtrodden and they don't even want to try anymore. And their little heads down or their big heads down. And they're like, I don't know what else I can do. Don't exasperate your children. If you're going to discipline them, I'm not saying you can't discipline your children. Discipline your children, it doesn't matter how old they are either. But always leave them hopeful. Give them correction and a thing to change. Make sure they always know that despite their misdeeds, you love them. That you're there for them. That you're never going to leave them. But then discipline them again and again and again. You know you've exasperated your child when they go into this season of self-loathing. But did you know that when you discipline your child and they know that they can correct the behavior? Did you know that when you discipline your child and they know that you're not going to leave them? Did you know that when you discipline your child and yet they still know that you love them, you're actually being an example of the fatherhood of God to them? You're teaching them the gospel and how you treat them. Why do I say that? Because this is how God deals with you. Does God discipline you? Oh yeah, He does. He disciplines me a lot. But does He leave me because I messed up? No. Does God stop loving me when I let Him down? No. In fact, He corrects me and disciplines me because He loves me. And I know that although I've messed up and I have a misdeed and I've angered Him, that He's never going to leave me or forsake me because I have a relationship with Jesus Christ. This is the gospel. You're going to mess up. God will discipline you. But if Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior, He will never leave you, He will never forsake you, and He will always be there for you. Be that fatherhood example to your children. If you're here today and you're a dad, even a mother, a daughter, a son, or whatever, and you're thinking, I've done too much, that's too bad, God can't forgive me. Not only are you wrong, but God will forgive you. Not only can He forgive you, He will forgive you, and He'll do it today. Jesus died in your place on the cross so that you could be forgiven of your sins. He rose from the dead so you could have access to God. If you would just repent of your sin, Stop clinging to it and believe upon Jesus Christ for forgiveness of your sin. You would be saved, and then you would be able to be this fatherhood example to your children. We've seen what a father is and what a father does in this negative command to not exasperate your children. We go on. This is why you never call your child stupid or give them any other hateful labels to describe them. Why? Because God doesn't do that to you. This is why you attack the behavior and you don't attack the child. But I want to tell you, it's a fine line that you walk. Remember, the words that you say matter, and your children will remember them. Exasperation can come once a day, dads, or exasperation can come every day. A classic example of how I am prone to exasperate my children is when I'm coaching them on the baseball field or on the football field or on any task. I'm prone to focus on all the things that they did wrong. And they need to be told that. I'm not saying they don't. But then I often neglect telling them the things that they did right. I've realized that in my parenting, I need to flip that paradigm around. I need to tell them what they did right, and then, if necessary, correct what they did wrong. But never leave them hopeless, only thinking that they're a failure and all that they know is wrong. This is a quick way to exasperate your children. I'm prone to it, and I hate it. I'm not proud of it. It sickens me. I can recognize that exasperated look in my child's face, and it breaks my heart. So I'm not telling you I'm perfect, and I know you're not perfect either. God's not saying be perfect. I've messed up, but I'll tell you something else that I've done that is helpful, and I want you to take it with you if you're prone to exasperate your children and to focus on the negative and never tell them you love them, that you're going to be there for them, that you're proud of them, or how to correct the mistake. If you just focus on the negative, here's what I've done. I've done it before, but then I go to them when I do it and I apologize. How about that? I admit that I'm wrong. I own it. It's not easy, but I do it every time. It's important that they see me do that. It's important that I receive that forgiveness from them. And I'll tell you what else is important. Not only go to them in humility and say, I messed up and I did this, but then change the behavior. Because if you apologize and nothing changes the next day, what does that apology mean? Not very much. And it'll mean less and less and less the more you do it and the less that you change. Be a man. Don't exasperate your children. Your children look to you for affirmation and encouragement. And like we saw in that video, listen to me. They always will. Give them affirmation. Give them encouragement. If the negative command here is do not exasperate your children, and exasperation leaves them hopeless and discouraged, what's the positive look at that? Leave them with things that encourage them or make them hopeful. Again, a father is faithful, available, and teachable. What does a father do? The main thing that he does is give hope to his children. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you're going to be there for them. Tell your sons and your daughters that you're proud of them. Forgive them when you discipline them, and be patient and kind with them. And the best way that you can offer hope to your children is by pointing them to Jesus. And then show them Jesus and how you treat them. This is good for me. I hope it's good for you as a father. What a father is, but we're not done. And because I need to hear not only what a father is again and again and again, in this same resource that I gave you, I also want to tell you what a father does. Fathers help instead of hurt. And fathers heal. Fathers encourage and equip. Fathers raise and redirect. And finally, fathers serve. Already need my eraser. And fathers share. What is a father? He's faithful, available, and teachable. What does he do? He helps and heals. You need to be the one that's there for your family and contributing to the family instead of being another child for your wife to raise. You need to heal your family. You're the one that your son and your daughter are going to run to when the world breaks them. You don't need to be the one that breaks them, that they need to turn to somebody else to heal them. As a father, you encourage. That means you speak life, not death. You lift your family up, not speak down to them and tear them down. You equip them. This is called discipleship, with the things that you've learned from His Word, because you're going to be in it, and the wisdom you have from the world. You raise your children. You rear them in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. And you redirect them, because they're going to get off the path. And with the instruction of the Bible, you help them and redirect them back on the path. You serve. You serve others, but you start with your family and anybody else that will let you serve them. And you share. What do you share as a father? Lots of things, but you share the gospel. Share the gospel with your children. Show the gospel to your children. And again, you share the wisdom to your children that you've learned from the Bible in this world, and you share it with other men. That's called mentoring and discipleship. Imagine how awesome it would be for 30 days to learn what a father is before God, His family, His church, and His work, and to teach those things to His children. To learn what a father does. And when you're tucking your children in at night, you help them understand how you're there to help and heal them, encourage and equip them, raise and redirect them, serve and to share them. You teach this to them, and you teach this, what they can expect from you, to your sons, what they can be when they grow up, and to your daughters, what they should expect from somebody else in their life. It's a flat out challenge for you this morning. Dads, just take this free book. Do it for 30 days with me. I haven't even started yet. I've read the book, but I haven't started yet. Go through these principles. Take them one letter or one idea at a time. It's only a couple pages per chapter. And then, this is something you're not going to want to do. Here's another challenge. Step 2 is write about it. Journal. I know I don't journal either. But do you know what a gift it would be? Is in this 30 days, if you went through this once and you journal about it every day and you give that to your son and he has that for the rest of his life. And then maybe the next 30 days you get another book. You can buy these on Amazon, by the way. Rewriting Fathers. It's real cheap. Go get it. You take another one over another 30 days and you do it and you write it and then you give it to your daughter and you give it to your son. And then all your children, one day when you're gone, they're going to have a book that their dad lived. Not only did he learn it, he lived it, then he wrote about it. They're going to be able to read about it for a lifetime. I can't tell you how excited I am about this resource. Not because it's the Bible, because it points you to the Bible and helps you apply the Bible to your life. So take this book, take the challenge, and let's do this together. Not only do I know you're going to need this over and over again, but I know you're going to need some accountability. So Alan Edens, Alan, raise your hand in the back. Alan Edens is putting together some men accountability groups so that you can sign up for one of those groups today on your way out, put your name on the sheet, we'll contact you, and then you can meet with other men and say, how's it going? Being a faithful, available, and teachable father. How's it going by teaching this to your children at night? This is what a father is. How's it going by doing what a father does? Then I want you to think how that will impact you, how that could impact your family, how that could impact this church and our whole community.